I'm Chip Freund, and this is the Artist Spotlight, conversations with contemporary artists based on 5 simple questions that explore the artist's journey, creativity, and sources of inspiration. Welcome to another episode of the Artist Spotlight. I'm Chip Freund, and today I'm joined by Ophelia Staton. Ophelia is a painter, and she's based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome, Ophelia.
Thank you.
I am so pleased that you agreed to be on the podcast. I was struck by your work when we first met down at the 311 Gallery, and you were one of the early ones on my list as I've been ticking off artists here to bring on board. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So as you know, we have our 5 questions, and the first one is, what is your earliest memory of making art of any kind?
Okay. That one, I literally, a bit of a backstory, I guess. I was that child growing up where my parents always had to keep my hands, or I should say my mom discovered that she had to keep me and my hands very, very, very busy, or else things would go very wrong. And so she would, for instance, give me things like bottle caps and rocks. And I would literally go outside and build entire cities. And the bottle caps would be the cars and the rocks would be the people. And I had to make things with my hands in order not to destroy all the things, if that makes sense. I just had to stay very busy. There was no like downtime in watching TV. I was just that child that had to stay busy, or all my sisters, I have 5 sisters, all of their Barbies would get haircuts, or that kind of thing, if I was not kept very busy doing something. And so my grandmom and my other aunts, wanted to teach me how to quilt, but I couldn't make myself like sit there long enough to actually learn the things. So I just was like an explorer and always doing things with my hand. And my dad owned a construction company. And so I would, I was outside working on engines and such like that with him. I had to be very, very, very busy doing things with my hands. So that's probably, my earliest experience is just being young, growing up, and just always having to create things, I guess, or do things.
Well, about what age do you think it was that you were working with pebbles and bottle caps?
4, 3. I mean, I was young. I literally, for as long as I can remember, it was things like that. Or she would make us like plates of like Jell-O, and we could print with the Jell-O until I guess it would have been like the early forms of today's jelly printing. And we would take paint and put marks in it, and we would print all sorts of stuff, and you could print and create stuff until your Jell-O melted. And so it was things like that my mom was just genius at coming up with different things for me to do, so that my hands and my head were always busy. So I can, maybe from the age of like 3, probably, I'm sure, probably even younger. As I grew older, I guess the things just became more detailed, like puzzles and sketchbooks. What do you call those? Like coloring books and crayons and anything that I could do to make something from absolutely nothing just held my attention for the longest time. And if not, there was trouble.
Well, if there is a choice between trouble and creativity,
Hmm.
I know where any good mom would take that. So
Absolutely.
hats off to her.
Absolutely.
So with that sort of upbringing, what brought you to your current media and why?
Gosh. Um, okay, so it comes with a bit of a backstory again. Um, if you'll remember, I was that child. And so it was third grade. We had like what do you call those? Like career day.
Hmm.
And so all of the kids were lined up, my entire third grade class. And um, my teacher, of course, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Blah, blah, blah. And it was going down the road, going down the road. And in my head, I had three things. Like, I was like a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, a fireman, or an artist. And so as she's coming to me, I'm like, okay, we've got to make a decision. We've got to Ooh, it's she and she got to the next person. It was like, I want to be a doctor. Oh, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a teacher. And now I'm starting to sweat because none of the answers sound like mine. And she gets to me and I'm like, okay. And I said, I want to be an artist. And the room fell silent. It was not like oh, yay, but like the room fell silent. And she said, made this kind of squirmish face and said, you're not going to really make it as an artist. You would end up selling peanuts at a football game, was her words. And so I thought, that's odd because that wasn't the response everybody else got, but okay. And so after that, it was like, oh, so then that's not the right thing to say. So let's never say that ever again. And anything then to deal with art or creativity was definitely shoved like way, way out of
Hmm.
anything. So in high school, I didn't take any art classes. Um, I went to school for a criminal justice degree. But as a creative and as a creator, it's always in you, and somehow it makes its way out of you. And so after, I had college kids, I started quilting. I took a quilting class, and one thing led to another, and then I took a painting class, and that's where it kind of welled up again. And so I paint now, abstract paintings in acrylic. Um, and it's like my soul is set free again, you know?
Oh, what a
Yeah,
great phrase.
yeah,
But
literally.
I can totally relate to that, in that most of my life I've been in my professional life I was in corporate marketing,
Hmm.
but I'd always had a hobby of photography on and off. But I felt this real inner emptiness. It was probably maybe 2011, 2012. I'm like, I've got to get this creativity out because I was the kid who was building models and doing all that kind of stuff. Um, but set all of that aside, and I then rekindled mine and started my art career with that. So I completely
Hmm.
understand that sort of inner need of I've got to let
Hmm.
this out, and
Hmm.
once you do, you feel so much better.
It's like breathing. You have to do it. And how I kept it pushed down for so long, it was like, well, what was I even doing with my life back then? Like, what did I do? So,
Well, my guess is that you were doing creative things. It just wasn't labeled as such.
right.
Uh,
That is true.
and part of what kind of tapped me on the shoulder from in my journey was, in corporate marketing, I was doing product marketing work, and people kept saying, "Well, you're the really creative one." And I'm like,
Ah,
"I am?"
yeah, yeah, yeah. And maybe that's the nudge, or
Yeah.
that's the something that makes us think, especially for me when I started in quilting and started like with a quilting class. And I specifically remember like my aunts or my grandma wanted to teach me, and I was like, No, like, ooh, no, no, we know." And then there I was, like, trying to soak in all the the quilting, and I love it because again, you start with nothing and you chop things up and like magic, a quilt appears, and it's like, this is kind of cool, but back then I was like, I don't think cool people do quilting. So no, no, I don't want to. And then that's what opened the door
Mm.
for me to get back to what was in there just ready to come out, I guess. I don't
Oh, cool. Well,
Yeah,
it's a nice segue into question number 3. What inspires your art? Where does your art come from?
gosh. Um Ugh, that's yeah. I start every one of my pieces without any idea of where it's going to go. And some days it's like hitting a home run, and some days it's like striking out. It's just, but I continue to show up. Um, every single day I paint. Every single day I put paint on my palette, brush on brush on the canvas, and something appears. I wish I could say like it's a this forms of this and forms of it's just the need for me to get paint on a canvas. Um, and I wish I could even describe the process or describe how it all goes. And when you are done, it's like, oh yeah, that's it. But I can't describe like point A to point B. And I had when I started learning to paint and taking a workshop, I had a teacher over in Durham Arts Council, and she was genius in that. She made me figure it out. And for 6 weeks, I sat there and I watched people paint whole series of things. And I had one canvas, and literally every week I would show up and kind of put paint down on my palette and kind of mix things around. And she would walk by and she'd go, add some graphite. And I'd be like, to what? Like, I'm not even making anything here. And, I'd look, and the next student would have like a whole wall of paintings done, and this person would have 3 or 4 done. And I'm still sitting there with my canvas, and she never once picked up my brush. She never once anything. Um, but it taught me to figure it out. And it also taught me that the longer you paint, the better at painting you become, and things become very clear. Where um, I am the one that's very quick, like, I want to do this and I want to learn to do it yesterday. And so if you, my teacher, can paint and I go buy all the materials that you paint with, I should be able to paint just like you. And it doesn't happen that way. It's, you put in the 40,000 miles on that brush that she put on that brush, and certainly you'll get there. And so, I think my inspiration just comes from a curiosity, where every day, like, I finish and then it's like, oh, I wonder what will happen if, and that starts the next day. Oh, I wonder if I take and add some green to this, and that starts the whole, I just pull out a green. And once I start, it's almost like you're in a trance or in a zone, and hours can go by that, to me. And it's like, I don't even care that the world exists out there. I don't even, of course I have to stop painting and get ready to go to work. But it's like, I don't even care that things are going on around me. I just get in that zone and I go. And so, in order to feed that, because I work full time, I get up really early. So, at about 4:30 ish, sometimes a little bit earlier, um, coffee in hand, zero ideas, and I just grab a paint color and go.
That's some great discipline, though, to
Oh,
just go to the go to the studio every day. And like you say, sometimes it's a home run, sometimes not so much. But that
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a number of other artists basically say what you said. You know, you get good at doing the work by doing the work,
Absolutely.
and there are no shortcuts. And you don't want to do somebody else's work; you want to do your work.
Right.
Yeah.
That is, that's the hard part. It's
Mhm.
figuring out who you are as an artist or finding your own style. And you don't do that until you do the work. Like that's when everything falls into place. And that's where I feel as though that teacher was just so genius in that she made me literally 6 entire weeks. I She made me stand there with my paint, with my brushes, with my canvas, and I figured it out. She didn't make me a mini her as a painter.
Mhm.
She made me the me with my style and my way of doing it. And it was frustrating, but but now I look back on it and I can remember the last day of class, she was like, the 6 weeks had ended and her next series of classes were going to start. And she, stopped by my station and she said, yeah, I really enjoyed having you in class. And, don't worry, your paints will speak to you. And I thought, like, my paints have been silent for 6 weeks. I don't know what else you would want. And she said, well, just come back to the next class. I didn't paint anything this class. Like, no, no, thank you. I'm good. But it stuck in my head, and I came home and I continued to paint because by then I was just frustrated. Like, this has to work for me. Like, it worked for everybody else. Why is this not working for me? And so I would again every day you could go paint, and like, oh, we'll try this. Okay, we'll add some of that. And all of a sudden it clicked. And like literally, I know it sounds absurd, but my paints really did speak to me like, oh, yeah, we're done. This painting is done. Or add some green, or, put some graphite there, or whatever, make a mark there. But it took, a solid 3 years of painting after that 6 weeks class.
Well, the last artist I had on, um, Tom Terrell, is a wood turner,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
he says, the key to an artistic turner is to listen to the wood.
Yeah.
The wood will tell you what it needs to be. And I was just like hearing that same sort of phrase from you, the paints will talk to you.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
It's
that's that's
so
that's
true. It's so true. Like you're connected and it works. It's the longer you work, you become connected with your materials, and they really do say, okay, we're done here. Or whatever it is, add this or whatever. And it's you only get that by showing up every single day.
we've begun to touch, I think, on question number 4, which is what advice would you give a young artist, not well, a new artist, only
Mm-hmm.
I won't define an age, a
Mm-hmm.
new artist just starting out on their artistic journey.
Uh-huh.
Clearly, you've defined some elements here of discipline and doing the work, but what other advice would you give?
You be very curious. Learn as much as you can from as many people as you can. It's one of those where you just want to be teachable, and have that curiosity. I'd never, even, as all of this time is going by, I don't know it all. And I'm always learning something. Definitely, you have to show up. When it's ugly, there are days when I want to close the door here and like set this space on fire and just walk out, but you come back the next day, and you come back the next day, and you come back the next day. Definitely, it's, the tools and the materials don't make the magic, you do. And
Mhm.
you can only do that by being in your space every single day. making a lot of bad paintings, making a whole lot of mistakes, but showing up every single day, just being curious because as I look around here, like none of the materials are precious. You use them and you have to do the work. I guess that's the best way of saying it. You show up, you try it, you stay curious, you learn something, you try it again, and eventually things fall into place. What I would say is that regardless, you just can't give up. You just keep going because it's in you for a reason. So you just keep going, and eventually things fall into place. But it's not I start today and boom, it's magic today, like I thought it was supposed to be. No, it's you it's a journey, and all of us are on a different part of it, but literally it's the best that there is out there. It's you just keep doing what you do every day.
I can relate from a landscape photography perspective. I don't have a studio to walk in and start creating. I have to go out places, and there may be mornings where I'm cold, or it's cold outside the tent, or I'm tired or achy, and I really don't want to do it. But if I don't do it, I won't find mornings like the one behind me here. I won't be out on the beach taking that walk when everybody else is asleep. Ansel Adams once defined the art of photography as set your camera to f8 and be there.
Right.
If you're not there, you can't take the picture.
Absolutely. I promise. And there are days when I'm like, oh, my head hurts, or I just really don't want to. I'd rather take a nap. I worked really hard yesterday. There's a billion things that could come up. But then it's like, but today could totally be my, like, that great painting. So you do it anyway. You just do.
All righty. Well, that brings us to our final question. And that is, what artists would you have us go check out? And this could be somebody that you've recently discovered, somebody who's been influential on your life throughout the career, living, dead, doesn't matter, famous, not famous. Who should we go check out their work?
Oh gosh. Okay, so because we've mentioned her, probably my most favorite was or is Lisa Creed in Durham. She is or was the teacher that I spoke about. Just incredibly talented. Wow, is that's literally she is one of, in my head, the greatest. People like, I've had mentors along the way that have no clue that they've mentored me. Like Joe DiGiulio, Sharon DiGiulio, Bob Rankin, Bob Burridge, all of those that are here, or I should say, I've met here in Raleigh, local, that are just incredible at their craft and what they do, and are incredible at just doing the things, and are they share anything and everything that you ask. They've got an answer that they're willing to share. People on Instagram that I immediately think of, two of my most favorite, like, here, get under my wing, let's go. Wendy McWilliams, Betty Franks, or Krause, I think it's Betty Franks art, or Betty Krause. Like, to me, they are the masters of abstract painting. And the fact that they literally, I mean, when I say I met Wendy on Instagram, and I could text her right now with a question on, can you help me figure this out? And she's like, call me, let's talk. That's how great they are. but they're like just phenomenal people in my head. And Wendy's like, you know what? I start every day just like you do. I've got to put paint on a canvas, so it's there. I'm no greater than anybody else out there putting paint on a canvas. I mean, but to me, that she is just like, oh, Joe DiGiulio again, Bob Rankin, those people that just taught me every single thing that I know. Because I had no art school training. I had no like fine art degree or anything like that. It's just all the people that helped me learn what I know and forced me to realize the gift. I guess that's probably it. They showed me, they taught me, I guess, or showed me that I have a gift, just like I have that gift of creativity. And so you do your thing.
Well, I think that sums it up
Yeah.
rather well. All righty.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of our time here.
Oh.
So thank you again for spending some time with me and sharing a bit of your journey with our listeners here. So this has been another edition of the Artist Spotlight. Again, I'm Chip Freund, and today we were visiting with Ophelia Staton, a acrylic artist in Raleigh. You just really should check out her work and the work of the other artists that she recommended. You can see her art at the 311 Gallery and at her website, which is
OpheliaStaton.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ophelia. Have yourself a great day, and we'll all tune in next time.
You betcha. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. This has been the Artist Spotlight with Chip Freund. Find accompanying blog posts at chipfreundphoto.com/blog, and you may subscribe to our show on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like listening.